That healthy grocery cart can hide the very risks you're trying to avoid, especially if you're on a fixed income, feeding a big family, or a student stretching every dollar. Recalls don't start in your kitchen. They start miles away in processing plants, farms, and supply chains where one slip can send contaminated food to thousands of homes. For older adults, that's not a nuisance, it's a hospital bill. Tonight, I'll show you the everyday items that quietly carry the highest risk and the two shelf-stable staples that consistently deliver safety and nutrition. We'll keep it practical: what to skip, what to swap, and how to cook the foods you already love so they actually protect your health instead of threatening it. Before we start, pause, hit subscribe so you don't miss urgent recalls and money-saving food safety tips. Now let's begin with the lunch staple most people trust, but shouldn't. Item 1 is deli meats, cold cuts. Open your fridge on a busy afternoon. You're tired, maybe on a fixed income, and you just want a quick sandwich. You pull out that neat pack of sliced turkey or ham, convenient, affordable, ready to eat. For millions of Americans, deli meats are a weekly staple. But for seniors, that plastic pack could be the deadliest item in the entire fridge. Here's why. Listeria monocytogenes. Unlike most bacteria, Listeria doesn't slow down in the cold. It thrives in it. Your refrigerator, the very place you trust to keep food safe, becomes its breeding ground. The history's brutal. In 1998, one of the largest Listeria outbreaks in U.S. history was traced to hot dogs and deli meats from a Michigan plant owned by Sara Lee. The result? Over 100 people sickened across 22 states, 14 deaths, most of them seniors. Fast forward to 2020, another outbreak linked to deli meats hospitalized nearly every single patient, with all 3 confirmed deaths occurring in adults over 65. And these aren't isolated tragedies. Between 1998 and 2018, the CDC linked over 1,600 listeriosis cases to ready-to-eat meats, with a fatality rate of about 20%. That's 1 in 5. For older adults, the math is cruel. A younger person might suffer diarrhea and stomach cramps. But seniors face sepsis, meningitis, and long-term neurological damage. Once the bacteria escapes the gut and enters the bloodstream, survival odds plummet. Even worse, the contamination doesn't always happen in your kitchen. It can start in the processing plant, on a slicer blade that wasn't fully sanitized, or in a drain that harbored bacteria for months. A single tainted batch of turkey or ham gets shipped nationwide, ending up in thousands of homes. By the time the recall notice appears online, it may already be on your plate. Public health officials urge seniors to reheat deli meats to 165 degrees, 74 degrees until steaming hot before eating. That step kills Listeria. But let's be real. How many people buy cold cuts for convenience, only to stand at a microwave for every slice? Very few. That's the dangerous contradiction. Many families have adapted. After the 2020 outbreak, social media lit up with posts from seniors and caregivers who swore off cold cuts entirely. Some roast whole chickens at home, slicing the meat themselves. Others switched to soups and casseroles, where the heating step is built in. They decided that safety mattered more than speed. So here's the hard truth. That neat plastic package doesn't represent convenience. It represents a gamble. For seniors, each bite of cold cuts is a roll of the dice, with odds so bad that the CDC explicitly warns against it. And what usually sits beside that sandwich meat? A bag of pre-washed salad mix that promises health, but often delivers something else entirely. Item 2, bagged salad mixes, pre-washed, ready to eat. You grab a bag that promises virtue in seconds. Pre-washed, ready to eat, the shortcut to a healthier you. It slides into the crisper like a safety badge. But for seniors, that seal can be a mirage, and history has already proven it the hard way. In 2015, Dole's processing plant in Springfield, Ohio, was linked to a Listeria outbreak that spread across multiple U.S. states and into Canada. The toll, at least 33 hospitalizations and 4 deaths. That wasn't a lab scenario. Those were real families, real elders, real funerals. Fast forward to 2021. Fresh Express recalled packaged Caesar and garden mixes nationwide after Listeria sickened people in 13 states. Again, this isn't internet hysteria. These are official investigations and nationwide recalls. Why does a product that looks so clean cause so much damage? Start with Listeria's biology. Unlike most foodborne germs, Listeria can grow at refrigerator temperatures. Freezing slows many microbes. Refrigeration suppresses others. Listeria keeps multiplying. A bag that's only slightly contaminated on day 1 can be significantly riskier by day 4. Seniors, whose immune systems are less resilient, end up on the wrong side of those odds, with high hospitalization rates and, too often, fatal outcomes. Then there's the way salad mixes are made. They're batch mixed. Heads of romaine, kale, and spinach from multiple farms are pooled, shredded, washed, and portioned into tens of thousands of bags. If one crate is contaminated, the problem doesn't stay local. It's distributed, quietly and efficiently, across brands and across states. That's why recalls feel sweeping. One slip on a factory floor, one poorly sanitized wash tank, one drain that harbors bacteria near a conveyor, and suddenly half the country is holding the same risk in identical bags. For seniors, the consequences are uneven by design. The pathogen is invisible, no smell, no obvious color change. Maybe you've opened a pea that seems sour or slimy a day earlier than it should. That isn't just off-putting, it's a reminder of how fragile safety can be when production shortcuts meet biology that thrives in the cold. So what's the practical move? Reduce exposure at the source. Choose whole heads of lettuce, romaine, or kale and wash them yourself. You control the water, the friction, the drying. If you still buy bagged mixes, use them the day you purchase. Don't save them for later in the week. Build a habit of checking recall alerts from the FDA, USDA, or CDC. They post updates in real time. When in doubt, discard. The cost of a bag isn't worth the cost of a hospital stay. Ready to eat should mean safe to eat. But with bagged salads, the record shows a different story. One where convenience and mass production turn a healthy choice into a high-stakes gamble for older adults. If the pre-washed label has lulled you into trust, let the data wake you up. 2015 and 2021 weren't flukes, they were warnings. Question for you. Have you ever tossed a salad bag early because it turned slimy or smelled off? Did a recall notice ever show up after you'd already eaten it? If creamy imports like brie and camembert seem safer than greens, think again. The next item shows how soft cheeses can carry the same deadly pattern. Item 3. Imported soft cheeses, brie, camembert, and similar. The cheese board looks elegant, a creamy wedge of brie, a soft round of camembert, crackers on the side. But for seniors, soft imported cheeses have repeatedly carried the same deadly signature, Listeria monocytogenes. Unlike most bacteria, Listeria doesn't mind the cold. It survives and can grow at refrigerator temperatures, which turns those velvety, high-moisture cheeses into a comfortable home. The warning isn't theoretical. In 2022, brie and camembert sold under multiple brand labels were recalled nationwide after tests found Listeria contamination. Regulators warned explicitly, older adults, pregnant women, and immunocompromised people face the greatest risk of severe illness or death. That pattern mirrors earlier investigations where a single contaminated production lot, sometimes from overseas or specialty suppliers, ended up relabeled and distributed widely across U.S. retailers. One source, many brands, thousands of kitchens. Why soft cheeses? And texture and moisture. Soft, high-water activity cheeses allow Listeria to persist. Once it's in the environment, on a drain, a cutting table, a brining tank, it can seed batch after batch unless sanitation is near perfect. Unpasteurized raw milk soft cheeses are the highest risk and are explicitly discouraged for seniors by public health guidance. But even pasteurized soft cheeses have appeared in outbreak timelines when plant hygiene failed after the pasteurization step. In other words, pasteurized isn't a force field if the environment recontaminates the product before packaging. For older adults, outcomes skew severe. Listeriosis doesn't stop at an upset stomach. It can become invasive disease, entering the bloodstream, crossing the blood-brain barrier, leading to sepsis or meningitis. case fatality rates for seniors are dramatically higher than for the general population, which is why these recalls emphasize hospitalization risk and mortality rather than mild illness. Practical moves that lower the risk immediately. Avoid unpasteurized soft cheeses altogether. Check the label for pasteurized milk. Prefer hard or semi-hard cheeses, e.g. Boss, cheddar, Swiss, which are far less conducive to Listeria growth. Buy shorter dated wedges from reputable, high-turnover stores. Keep your fridge at 44 eggs. Use separate knives, boards for soft cheese and raw produce. Clean boards, knives, and fridge shelves regularly. If you insist on soft cheese for a special occasion, serve baked and steaming hot rather than cold on a board. Heat is your friend. The takeaway is blunt but protective. A luxurious rind does not equal safety. When investigations keep circling back to soft imported cheeses, seniors should think twice. You can still enjoy bold flavor. Just choose a safer style and keep the indulgence from turning into an ER visit. And if a chilled cheese can carry a warm weather pathogen, imagine what happens when fresh juices skip the kill step entirely. Item 4. Unpasteurized juices and ciders. Fresh pressed, cold pressed, all natural. The labels sound wholesome, and for many shoppers, that's enough. But when juice is unpasteurized, it's missing the single step that separates a refreshing drink from a foodborne illness: heat. Pasteurization is a brief, controlled warming that inactivates dangerous microbes like E. coli, O157, H7, Salmonella, and norovirus. Skip it, and anything that hitched a ride on the fruit's skin or in the orchard soil can end up in your glass. Here's how it happens. Fruit grows on trees and vines that are exposed to soil, irrigation water, birds, and animals. Even fruit that looks clean can carry microscopic contamination on the rind. When it's crushed or pressed, the surface bacteria are driven into the juice. If the vendor doesn't pasteurize, or if sanitation slips on press heads, blades, drains, or tanks, microbes survive and multiply. Because juices are served cold and ready to drink, there's no cooking step at home to save you. For seniors, consequences escalate fast. What begins as cramps or diarrhea in a younger adult can become severe dehydration, sepsis, or long-term complications in older adults. Past outbreak investigations have traced clusters to farm stands, juice bars, and small bottlers, then issued public warnings urging high-risk groups, including seniors, to avoid unpasteurized juices and ciders. The logic is simple. The risk-benefit trade-off is poor when a safer, nearly identical alternative is on the next shelf. Smart shopping rules that close the gap instantly. Look for pasteurized on the label. Most supermarket juices are, if it's missing or the bottle says unpasteurized or raw, assume risk. At farmers markets or cider mills, ask directly whether the product is pasteurized. If not, skip it or heat it yourself. Bring to a rolling boil, then cool before drinking. Keep any juice refrigerated at 40°F and discard if it looks swollen, fizzy, or off-smelling. Serving mixed-risk households? Make pasteurized the default for kids and seniors. You protect everyone, every time. If you love seasonal cider, you don't have to give it up. Just choose pasteurized. The taste difference is minimal. The safety difference is massive. Think of pasteurization as insurance built into the bottle, an invisible barrier between your gut and a microbe that doesn't care how pretty the label looks. Quick check for viewers. Do you ever verify pasteurization before buying juice at a stand or juice bar? Or have you assumed fresh means safe? A 2-second label check could save you a week in bed or a night in the ER. We've covered cold risks and missing heat steps. Next up is a freezer favorite that hides a different threat: viruses that survive the cold unless you cook them. Item 5. Frozen berries, strawberries, blueberries, mixed berries. A frozen berry bag seems like the perfect fix: cheap, colorful, and always ready for a smoothie. But viruses don't care about the marketing. Hepatitis A has been repeatedly linked to frozen strawberries and mixed berries, with public health investigations pointing to contamination that occurred before the fruit ever reached your freezer. In 2016, a multi-state outbreak connected to imported frozen strawberries triggered widespread warnings and recalls. Fast forward to 2022-2028, regulators again flagged frozen organic strawberries imported from Baja California, prompting FDA CD advisories and multi-retailer recalls. The pattern is the alarm: same virus, similar product, broad distribution. Here's the critical biology. Hepatitis A survives freezing. Cold is not a kill switch, it's a pause button. Months later, you toss those berries into a blender raw, skipping the one step that would have protected you: heat. For younger adults, infection can mean weeks of fatigue, nausea, and jaundice. For seniors, outcomes get worse: prolonged illness, dehydration, liver stress layered on top of existing conditions, and higher odds of hospitalization. How does a berry get contaminated? Through the fecal-oral route: water used in fields, unhygienic handling during harvest, packing, or transit. Because frozen fruit is often eaten without cooking, any virus present at the farm can be delivered straight to your glass. And because suppliers aggregate crops, one contaminated lot can funnel into many brand labels. That's why a single investigation can lead to a cascade of nationwide recalls. Practical safeguards that dramatically reduce risk: cook or boil frozen berries before eating, fold into hot oatmeal, simmer for sauces or compots, or microwave to steaming before chilling for yogurt bowls. Heat inactivates the virus. Treat raw berry smoothies as high risk during an advisory window. If a recall names your lot or date, discard or return per instructions. If unvaccinated and you ate a recalled product within the exposure window, ask a healthcare provider about post-exposure prophylaxis, Hep A vaccine, and/or immune globulin. Timing matters, with a typical 214-day window for best protection. Build a habit of checking FDA CDC recall pages during berry season. The selling point of frozen berries is convenience, but the record, 2016 and 2022-2023, says convenience can be a trap if you skip cooking. For seniors, the safe choice isn't to ban berries. It's to put heat between you and the virus. A 2-minute boil turns a risky bag into breakfast you can actually trust. If freezing can preserve a virus, imagine what warm, humid conditions do for bacteria, which is exactly where our next item lives. Item 6 is sprouts, alfalfa, clover, mung bean, and more. They look alive with health, pale threads of crunch added to salads and wraps. But sprouts are a textbook vehicle for salmonella and E. coli, and the reason is baked into how they're grown. To sprout quickly, seeds are held in warm, humid environments. Think room temperature to 30 degrees with frequent watering. Those are perfect conditions for bacteria to multiply explosively. If a seed lot is contaminated before sprouting begins, the bacteria can replicate inside the developing sprout. By the time it hits your plate, washing does nothing. The risk isn't just on the surface, it's throughout the sprout. Outbreak investigations repeatedly show the same chain: a single seed lot used by multiple growers, sprouts shipped to restaurants and grocery stores, multi-state illnesses within weeks. Because sprouts are usually eaten raw, there's no kill step. For a healthy teen, that may mean a miserable few days. For older adults, it can mean severe dehydration, sepsis, and hospitalization. Particularly with strains like E. coli 0157H7 that may cause bloody diarrhea and kidney complications. That risk profile is why FDA and CDC explicitly advise high-risk groups, seniors, pregnant people, and the immunocompromised, to avoid raw sprouts entirely. If you love the flavor or crunch, here's the safe path. Cook sprouts until steaming hot before eating. Stir fries, soups, and hot sandwiches can deliver the texture you want with the safety you need. At restaurants, ask whether sprouts are raw. If they are, request no sprouts or a cooked substitute. For home sprouting hobbyists, understand that even careful rinsing with clean water cannot fix a contaminated seed lot. Seed quality and disinfection protocols matter, but risk to seniors remains high. Swap in lower-risk crunch: thin sliced cucumbers, shredded carrots, or crisp bell peppers. Fresh, cold, and far safer. There's also a grocery budget angle. Raw sprouts spoil fast and are tossed often. Choosing cooked alternatives or safer crunches can lower waste, lower risk, and preserve the texture you crave. The bottom line for seniors is simple. Sprouts are net light and healthy once you understand the biology. They're a warm incubator for pathogens wrapped in a health halo. Question for you. When you see sprouts on a menu, do you skip the dish, ask for them cooked, or swap for something safer? Your habit might be the nudge another viewer needs to rethink that healthy topping. We've handled produce risks. Now let's open the pantry and talk about a staple with big nutrition and a hidden long-term hazard, canned tuna. Item 7. Canned tuna. Mercury management, not a ban. Canned tuna checks all the boxes on a tight budget. Protein-rich, shelf-stable, fast. The risk isn't spoilage or bacteria, it's methylmercury, a neurotoxin that accumulates in fish and in us. The numbers matter. On average, albacore white tuna contains about 3 times the mercury of light tuna, usually skipjack. FDA datasets put typical means around 0.35 ppm for albacore versus 0.203 ppm for light. That gap is why the EPA-FDA joint advice treats them differently. Albacore 1 serving week, 6 pesos, while light tuna can be eaten at 2 to 3 times a week for most adults. For older adults, this isn't a theoretical curve on a chart. Mercury crosses the blood-brain barrier and impairs attention, memory, and processing speed. Over years, even small, repeated doses accumulate. A 2017 Consumer Reports review highlighted that some cans tested above FDA averages, underscoring the real-world variability by brand and batch. If tuna is your everyday fallback, the dose over time becomes the problem, especially when cognitive health is already a concern. None of this means throw out the pantry. Canned tuna still brings omega-3s and affordable protein. It just needs rules. If you make light tuna your default, skipjack. Treat albacore as occasional. Think in servings per week, not cans per day. Plate sizes creep. Rotate proteins to the lower cumulative exposure. Canned salmon, often 2.02 to 2.04 ppm. Sardines, and very low. Or trout, generally lower than albacore. If sodium is a concern, drain and rinse canned fish. You can trim meaningful milligrams of salt without losing protein. Build Fish Friday around lower mercury species and keep tuna as a supporting actor, not the star every night. A quick kitchen script for seniors and caregivers. Tuna once or twice a week. Prefer light. Swap the third tuna meal for sardines on toast or canned salmon patties. You keep the heart-healthy fats while cutting mercury exposure by design. The bottom line, tuna is a dosage decision. Budget-friendly doesn't have to mean brain-unfriendly. Adjust frequency, pick the right can, and let other low-mercury fish share the plate. If tuna shows up in your week 3 times, which one can you swap? Breakfast, lunch, or that last-minute dinner? From the seat of the lab, let's talk about plant-based meats, where recalls often have nothing to do with fish or farms and everything to do with factories. Item 8. Plant-based meat alternatives. Foreign objects, allergen mix-ups, pathogens. The pitch is irresistible. The taste of burgers or nuggets without the baggage of beef or chicken. U.S. plant-based meat sales topped 1.4 B in 2021 and freezer cases filled up fast. But rapid scaling exposed a different risk profile, industrial hazards. When proteins are ground, extruded, and shaped through complex machinery, there are more chances for failure. Misset screens, worn parts, cross-contact with allergens, sanitation gaps. That's why recall language in this category so often reads the same. May contain hard plastic metal fragments, undeclared allergens, soy, wheat, possible salmonella/listeria. Several widely reported recalls over the last few years involve foreign objects in patties and allergen mislabeling in plant-based products. Regulators sometimes flag unsanitary equipment in inspection findings, drains, belts, and augers that concede contamination if cleaning verification slips. A steak rarely passes through an extruder. A plant-based patty always does. The difference shows up on recall pages. For seniors, the risk is twofold. Physical hazards, a shard of plastic or metal, can mean chipped teeth, choking, or internal injury. And biological hazards hit harder. CDC data consistently show higher hospitalization and mortality in older adults for serious foodborne infections. Add in undeclared allergens, and a product meant to be better for you can become dangerous fast. Safer ways to stay plant-forward without courting factory pitfalls. Prefer minimally processed proteins, beans, lentils, chickpeas, tofu, tempeh. Canned beans plus quick seasonings can replace many weeknight fake meat uses. If you do buy patties/nuggets, follow cook to temp on the label. Treat like ground meat, target 165 to 74 degrees internal, and don't undercook just because it's plant-based. Heat is a safety step. Scan labels for allergens every time. Formulas change. If you're wheat soy sensitive, avoid may contain lines. Inspect texture as you prep. If you feel grit or see fragments, stop and report your lot/date to the retailer or manufacturer. Keep packages frozen per instructions and track lot codes during active recalls. Sign up for FDA or USDA email alerts if these live in your freezer. And don't overlook simple swaps. A skillet of seasoned black beans with onions and cumin delivers protein, fiber, and satiety. No extruder required. If you still want a burger, try homemade bean oat patties you can pan-sear and freeze in batches. You control every ingredient. The idea behind plant-based meat is admirable. The execution at scale adds industrial failure modes you don't see in a whole cut of fish or chicken. For seniors, the safest plant-based path is often less processing, not more DKMH. Have you ever bitten into a plant-based patty and noticed a strange crunch or off texture? That's your cue to pause and to rethink what clean eating really means when it's built on a conveyor belt. Next up is a snack that looked innocent and kid-friendly, and then shocked the country with extreme lead levels: cinnamon apple fruit pouches. Item 9, apple cinnamon fruit pouches. Lead shock, broken trust. They were supposed to be the safest snack in the cart, squeezable, spill-proof, marketed with apples, a sprinkle of cinnamon, and a big halo of wholesome. Then 2023 happened. Testing confirmed what a few independent labs had warned. Cinnamon-flavored apple pouches from multiple brands contained lead at levels hundreds of times above what's considered safe, with some samples reported at over 200x the legal limit. The recalls were swift, the outrage was louder, and the trust shattered. Lead isn't a stomach bug. It doesn't make itself obvious with fever or cramps. It accumulates quietly in bones and organs. For children, the consequences are well known: developmental and behavioral harm that can't be undone. For seniors, the risks are different but still grave: kidney damage, cardiovascular strain, and neurological decline layered on top of existing conditions. Because symptoms can be vague: fatigue, headaches, blood pressure changes, exposure can go unnoticed for weeks. How did a clean snack become a toxic delivery system? Investigators traced the problem to the cinnamon supply chain. In poorly regulated environments, spices may be adulterated with lead-containing compounds to boost weight or color. Once that tainted cinnamon is blended into a fruit pouch, there's no taste or smell to warn you. A smiling package masks a heavy metal. For older adults, there's another angle: texture and convenience. Many seniors rely on pouches because they're easy to swallow on days when appetite is low or chewing is difficult. That's precisely what makes this category so treacherous. Habit meets hidden hazard. If pouches became your routine, the exposure wasn't a one-off, it was dose over time. Practical steps that protect you immediately. Purge by lot code. If you still have cinnamon-flavored pouches, any brand, check the lot and date against recall pages. When in doubt, discard. Replace smart. Choose whole fruit, applesauce from trusted brands, or canned fruit in juice, not heavy syrup. You get the same convenience without the metal risk. Talk to your provider if you consumed recalled products, especially if you're managing kidney disease, hypertension, or cognitive concerns. Ask whether blood lead testing makes sense for you. Audit your pantry for cinnamon-flavored kids' products, bars, cereals, oat packs. If a recall is active, assume related items deserve scrutiny. This wasn't a fluke. It was a warning about what happens when long, opaque supply chains intersect with healthy marketing. The pouch looked innocent. The lab results didn't. For seniors, the rule is simple. If it's cinnamon flavored and processed, be cautious. If it's fruit, choose forms you can see and verify. Did you or your family use cinnamon apple pouches in the last year? If so, what did you switch to? Applesauce, canned peaches, or whole fruit you can peel and trust? Enough with the minefields. Let's talk about two staples that actually earn their safety reputation, starting with a pantry hero that survives hurricanes, blackouts, and recall seasons. Safe number one, canned beans. Simple process, strong safety. When you need protein you can trust on a tight budget, canned beans are the quiet MVP. Kidney, black, pinto, chickpeas, variety aside, what makes them safe is the way they're made. After sealing, cans undergo high-temperature, high-pressure retort processing that kills pathogens and creates a commercially sterile environment. That's why beans rarely appear on contamination recall lists compared with ready-to-eat meats or raw produce. For seniors, the advantages stack up. Beans deliver plant protein, fiber for digestive health and cholesterol control, and minerals like iron and magnesium that diets often miss. They sit on the shelf for months without spoiling, which reduces waste and lets fixed-income households buy ahead during sales. And unlike deli meats or soft cheeses, beans don't support Listeria growth once processed and sealed. There are a few thoughtful tweaks to make them even better. Sodium. Many canned beans are salted for flavor and preservation. A quick drain and rinse can cut sodium by nearly half, while leaving protein and fiber intact. Look for low sodium or no salt added options when possible. Quality checks. Avoid bulging, leaking, or badly dented cans. Those are universal red flags. If a can spurts or smells off when open, discard immediately. Smart storage. Rotate stock, first in, first out. Keep cans cool and dry, and label the top with a marker so you actually use the oldest first. Quick wins. Turn a can into dinner in minutes. White beans plus olive oil plus garlic, lemon. Black beans with cumin and onions. Chickpeas smashed with yogurt and dill. All of these outperform processed meat options on safety while hitting the same convenience note. From a recall math perspective, canned beans shine because there are fewer failure modes. You're not relying on a short, cold, ready-to-eat chain. You're relying on heat, pressure, and a sealed container, the same principles that kept pantries fed during past disruptions. And if you cook for a mixed-risk household, kids, seniors, immunocompromised, beans are the rare staple that feeds everyone with minimal risk trade-offs. Budget, nutrition, safety, canned beans check all three. In a grocery world where healthy labels sometimes hide surprises, this is the rare case where the simplest story is the truest. Heat it, rinse it, season it, and eat with confidence. Our second safe zone lives in the freezer, an aisle too many people overlook because they think fresh equals safer. Science says otherwise when you cook it right. Safe number two, frozen vegetables. Cooked, low risk, high reward. If bagged salads and raw berries gave you pause, frozen vegetables should restore a little faith when cooked. Most vegetables destined for freezing are blanched first, a brief boil or steam, which reduces surface microbes and locks in color and texture. Then they're frozen quickly, which halts bacterial growth. Kept at proper temperatures on 18 and 6, they remain stable for months. For seniors, that's a powerful diwabo, low biomicrobial risk after cooking, consistent nutrition, and year-round availability without the spoil and rush of fresh. Multiple studies have shown that flash frozen veg can retain vitamins, C, K, folate, as well or better than produce that's been traveling and sitting for days. If you need reliable fiber and micronutrients, broccoli, spinach, peas, green beans, the freezer aisle often beats the crisper drawer. Safety comes down to one rule. Apply heat. Treat frozen vegetables like raw ingredients that need a kill step. Steam, boil, roast, saute, or microwave to steaming hot throughout. Skip the snack from the bag habit. Also skip unsafe thawing, no countertop defrosting. Cook from frozen when possible, or thaw in the fridge. Keep bags sealed. If a package has thawed and refrozen into a solid block, quality suffers and safety is no longer guaranteed. Practical ways to make them delicious and safe. Fast. Sheet pan roast from frozen. Toss broccoli or cauliflower with oil and spices. Roast hot until edges brown and steam subsides. Soup or stew. Boost. Drop mixed veg straight into simmering broth. The cooking time doubles as your safety step. Microwave plus finish. Steam peas or green beans to piping hot, then finish with lemon and olive oil. Batch and portion. Cook extra, cool quickly, and portion into lidded containers for 2 more meals. Budget-friendly and time-saving. Why do frozen vegetables outperform their fresh cousins on safety? The processing front-loads control, blanching plus cold chain stability minimizes the chance that you're eating something that's been quietly multiplying pathogens for days. Contrast that with bagged salads, which are often eaten raw and have a documented history of Listeria and E. coli issues. With frozen vegetables, you hold the final safety switch, the stove. For a household juggling fixed incomes, limited energy, and real health concerns, frozen vegetables are more than a compromise. They're a strategy, predictable, affordable, and safe when cooked. What's your go-to frozen veg you'll actually eat every week? Broccoli, spinach, or peas? Pick one and we'll build you a 10-minute, senior-friendly recipe around it next. Your grocery cart shouldn't be a guessing game. The pattern across every risk we covered is simple. The fridge is not a force field. Listeria can grow cold. Freezing is not a kill switch. Viruses survive. And healthy label aren't at safety plans. The fixes are simple too. Cook it, reheat deli meats to steaming, boil frozen berries, always cook frozen veg. Check the label. Pasteurized juice, pasteurized cheese, species and servings for tuna. And choose simpler processing. Whole heads over mixed bags, beans over ultra-processed patties. If you're on a fixed income, these swaps protect both your health and your budget. Fewer ER visits, less waste, more meals you can trust. Do 3 things tonight. Set your fridge to Isayuna 40 derv for orders and freezer to Azul darf on 18 darks. Purge anything tied to recent recalls and plan 2 safe dinners using canned beans and cooked frozen vegetables. Before you go, subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss urgent recall updates and money-saving safety tips. Then tell us in the comments, which swap will you make first? Whole lettuce instead of bagged, light tuna instead of albacore, or cooked frozen veg instead of raw salads? Your answer might be the prompt that keeps someone else safe.